In celebration of 150 years of women at Berkeley, we are researching the experiences of Asian American women at UC Berkeley. In spring 2021, as part of the URAP project led by Professor Renee Sung, we are interviewing AAPI Women at UC Berkeley. I am Veronica Wang, a second-year student majoring in Sociology and Political Science. I will be interviewing Professor SanSan Kwan from the Department of Theater, Dance, and Performance Studies. Here is the interview. Hi, SanSan. Nice to meet you. So first, could you please share with us your name, your job title and department, and your years of working in UC Berkeley?
My name is SanSan Kwan. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Theater, Dance, and Performance Studies, and I've been working at UC Berkeley since 2011.
And for more information about our topic, could you share more with us about your ethnic identity, where you grew up, and where your parents are from?
Sure, I'm Chinese American. I was born in the United States, but my parents are immigrants. My mother is from Taiwan, and my father's from Hong Kong.
Okay, thank you. So now we will move on to the first question. As an Asian American woman, were you treated the same as or different from others at home or in the workplace? And have you ever seen or experienced stereotypical bias against Asian American women?
Yes, as an Asian American woman, I have definitely been treated differently than other people, both um, in school and in the workplace for sure. In school, K through 12, of course, I was, subject to all the usual, like, squinty-eyed um, taunts and so forth. I remember in high school being told that I would have made a great cheerleader, except that my look wasn't right, so they couldn't accept me because I wouldn't fit in with the rest of the cheerleaders in the ballet studio and on the ballet stage growing up. I remember my dance teacher lightening my skin so that it wouldn't stick out on stage. Um, in the dance world, when I went on to New York to be a professional dancer, I remember that I was dancing with this one white choreographer and we were holding an audition, and there was another Asian American woman who was auditioning, and my choreographer said that he didn't want to have too many of us in the company, so he didn't choose her. And then as I moved into academia, certainly I have felt a certain stigma. I feel that sometimes I'm not accorded the same level of respect or authority that another faculty might be given. Um, I think that assumptions are made about the kind of work I'm going to do or not going to do, the kind of student that would or wouldn't work with me just based upon their last name and my last name. Um, I feel like sometimes students presume that I might be more supportive or more lenient than other professors might. Um, on the other hand, I also really think that it is part of my responsibility to be extra supportive to students and to be a mentor to them, especially to Asian and Asian American students, but to students of all kind. And it's my pleasure to do that. But sometimes I think the expectation of my docility or leniency is not always fair. Um, and yeah, so that's just about my own experiences, but for sure, I've definitely seen and spoken with other Asian American women, both in the dance field and in education and academia, who have experienced similar
Yeah.
things.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I definitely felt resonated with many of the experiences that you have. I mean, I only like went to America for college, like so my first 18 years or in China. So I might not like being treated as a minority like for like before college, but after going to America and seeing like especially at this time witnessing many hate crimes against particularly women community in Asian Americans, I think it's heartbroken to see the discrimination and injustice against the community of Asian American women. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And so we'll move on to the second question. What would you say is the biggest challenge or obstacle for Asian American women today? And what are some of the causes that you can think of?
Yes, that's a really important question. I think that all of the stereotypes that get projected upon Asian American women, those are the obstacles we face. Perceptions of our passivity, um, of our docility, the way that we will work hard and not complain, that we will be complacent. Um, I think in my field, as someone in the humanities and in the creative professions, there's an assumption that Asian people aren't creative, they aren't innovative. Um, of course, there's the pervasive Asian fetish that Asian American women face every day. The perception or the kind of equation of us with a kind of hypersexuality and availability and a kind of an eroticism that gets projected upon us. Those are huge obstacles. I also think that a really difficult issue that Asian American women face is this presumption of our complacency in anti-Black and anti-Brown racism. There is some perception that somehow we are perceived as antagonistic towards Black or Brown progress. And of course, we also face, on the other hand, this notion that there are quote unquote too many of us in elite schools, in higher institutions of learning. And that kind of thing. So yeah, a lot of obstacles.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I also agree with what you said about, especially about the point that Asian community has always been portrayed as the model minority. Like we don't ask for like so many things, and we are quiet, and we also like contribute a lot to the society, both in economics and other stuff. And I think that kind of stereotypes also like really affect how people and how like majority of Americans treat Asian people, and I think that's not appropriate. Yeah. So the third question is also because when I know I'm going to interview you, I'm really excited because I took a performance study class last semester, although it's only a writing class, but I really love it. And so, in my perspective, performance studies deconstructs and redefines many social imaginations around identities and social groups, such as race and gender. I remember in our class, the professor played us many pieces of performances conducted by particularly female artists, because our theme is about female artists. And I remember being touched by their work. So I think I assume like
the performance study also focuses much on studying race. So could you recall any memorable example of performances that touched upon these topics or inform the public about these issues?
Oh, yes, a myriad of them. And yeah, you're absolutely right about what the work of performance studies is. It's a really invaluable field for uncovering the potential for performance, but also the potential for performativity, which I'm assuming you learned a little bit about. Performativity meaning like how we perform ourselves in everyday life. So the potential for both performance on a stage, but also performance in everyday life to really help us understand the processes of racial formation. That is really the work of performance studies. So you're absolutely right about that. And there are a lot of really great Asian American performance studies scholars. Many of them, in fact, a majority of them are women, and they have contributed to our understandings of Asian American performativity. So people like Karen Shimakawa and Doreen Kondo and Anne Chang and Yu Tian Wang, Lucy Burns, Christine Balance. A lot of the work of Asian American performance studies has been done by Asian American women scholars. As far as performances on the stage that do the work of challenging misperceptions about Asian American identity, yes, there's been a lot. I can speak to just my own experience. I've danced for 3 different Asian American dance companies, and each one of them did that work of undoing stereotypes in different ways. One of the dance companies I work with really was interested in uncovering certain narratives and certain histories of Asian Americans in the United States. Another dance company that I worked with was did some work on kind of parodying stereotypes of Asian American female exoticism and eroticism. We also did some work on U.S. wars in Asia and the ways that those affected our perceptions of Asian American women. I'm dancing with a dance company now that staged the stories of Chinese immigrants who came through Angel Island back in the early 20th century. So just in my own experience as an Asian American dancer and performer, I've worked with several companies that are really interested in that kind of work.
Okay, thank you. It's really inspiring to hear your story of like working with so many other Asian Americans and also like other people with other ethnicities to speak about or just like reveal these issues to the public. I think it's really inspiring and exciting because I'm not really, I'm not a dance person. I danced for a little bit before 5, and then I turned to music and other stuff, and then just like fell in love with sociology. But I always admire other girls like and boys who can just use their bodies to just do all those beautiful gestures. And also I think today's many dance have really profound meanings, like you said. It can shed lights on other social issues or problems that may not be demonstrated by other art forms. So yeah, I definitely admire your work and what you've been doing for your dance career. So I guess my next question is, what was your biggest accomplishment or proudest moment as an Asian American woman? And also you can share a little bit about what would you like to accomplish going forward?
That is a really awesome question. Thank you for asking me. Um, I think that just being an Asian American woman in a creative field in dance is already an accomplishment. We tend to think again about Asians and Asian Americans as not being creative and not being embodied, right? So all of these stereotypes that we have about the model minority is that Asian Americans are really good at things like math, but they can't be creative or innovative, and that they're not very physically able or agile. And so being an Asian American woman in dance, I think, helps to challenge those perceptions. But I also think being an Asian American female academic at UC Berkeley is something I'm really proud of. I see it as a large part of my job to be a model for Asians and Asian American students here at UC Berkeley, and that's a job that I have a lot of excitement and passion about.
Okay. And also, could you share a little bit about what would you like to accomplish going forward? What's your goal for your career or life?
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to just keep going, actually. I'd like to just keep supporting Asian and Asian American students at UC Berkeley and keep creating work that speaks to those experiences. So yeah, I'm really happy with where I've landed in life and what I see as the way that I can contribute.
Yeah, great. I think UC Berkeley is very fortunate to have you as a valuable member of the faculty. And yeah, I also looking forward to see more Asian American performances in the art world. So I guess we will have our final question. So given what happened in American society recently, do you have any advice for other Asian American women who may be struggling with their identity? And the answer could be in just one or two sentences or longer. Yeah.
Sure. I think that it's important for Asian American women to assert themselves. It's important for us to learn about our histories, to understand what is the context behind anti-Asian misogyny, and to work actively to disavow those that racism and that misogyny. I think it's also really important for us as Asian American women to be in alliance with other BIPOC struggles against white supremacy. It's really important to recognize that that we're all part of a big system, and that we have to again work in concert with other BIPOC folks to fight that system of white supremacy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think it's really important for us to raise awareness in our own community and also to stand up against the injustices. So yeah, thank you, SanSan. That's all my questions for now. It's really nice to talking with you, especially at this time.